Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode 76, our third try at episode 76, out for a couple of weeks. Glad to be back in the saddle tonight. It's presented tonight by our friends at Game Toppers LLC. Upgrade your gaming experience with Game Toppers LLC. Gumbo Live is the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Pete McPherson, the designer of Tiny Towns from AEG. Board Game Gumbo is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out our other fine members like Cloak and Meeple. They're a tabletop game channel on YouTube with creative intros, clever intros, how to play walkthroughs. Cloak and Meeple helps you decide if a game is something you want to bring to your table. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hit us up on social media, on Twitter at Board Game Gumbo, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions in the chat. But enough blather, let's get right to our guest, Pete McPherson. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Man, it's awesome getting you on the show. I apologize that we had to reschedule. Thank you for being so patient with my little family things with losing my mother-in-law last week. But what I wanted to talk about is you're a designer. You know the elevator pitch. Give everybody out there in the chat crew the elevator pitch. Who is Pete McPherson and what's he been up to lately?
So I am a freelance writer, and I suppose you could say freelance game designer. Not that it's a major source of income for me, but huge passion of mine, of course. Tiny Towns is my first published game design, so I've been really excited. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, overwhelmed by the reaction from people so far. I do a lot of writing. I do book reviews. I run a book blog with my fiance, and then I do game design in my spare time and play test other folks' games. So,
and you're not kidding. You have been busy. I just posted on Twitter. Tiny Towns is #2 on the hotness. That's got to get you excited, man.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I can't believe it. It's a pretty innocuous game with an innocuous title. So to see this reaction to it is really cool. It makes me really happy.
It's a live show, and we got our friend Steve O'Rourke, the name father, checking in. He says, "Welcome, Pete, and welcome back, BJ. Wishing you and your family all the best in tough times." Hey, I appreciate that. Steve was a light for me for the last week. He was always checking in every day, and it was awesome to have somebody to talk to. So, yep, it's great to be back in the saddle. Can't wait to talk about Tiny Towns. Got a couple other people checking in. Marshall Wells, who runs the Sinlaw group up there, says, "Hey, glad to have you back, BJ." Marshall, it is awesome to be back. And Kevin, who is usually one of the guys that wins, he'll probably win the Envie game tonight, but he says, "Welcome back." And Kevin, it's awesome being there. Dave, I don't know anything about punch and pie. Pete, did you bring punch or pie?
I can't say I did.
Yeah, no punch and pie, Dave. But we do have something to talk about, Peter, we've got an exciting announcement, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was lucky enough to get an extra copy of Tiny Towns. It's in the shrink wrap right here. And you and I are going to be giving that away tonight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What are the details? What's going to happen?
So what's going to happen is folks in the chat are going to come up with a name for their tiny town that they might create in Tiny Towns. So you'll put that in the chat. We're going to gather that list and then randomly select a Tiny Town's name, and then whoever created that name will be the winner of that.
Unless something just jumps out at you, of course. You're perfectly welcome to pick one of the best ones. But random is also fine, however you want to do it, Pete. So, Hey, Verla says, "Hi, guys. Welcome back, BJ." Verla, it's calendar time. It's the first show of the month, and it's calendar time. And I think I know this one, Verla. I didn't know last one, but this month it looks like Agricola. That's what my guess is going to be. Pete, can you see that up there? Probably not, huh?
Not quite.
Let me see if I can solo. Does that help out a little bit? Can you see it now? Probably not. No, too small. No. All right. So Verla does an awesome job with her little calendar with the photographs. And the calendar this month is Agricola. At least I'm pretty sure. And we'll see. Oh, no, she says, "I'm so proud of you." So apparently I got it right this time. So I did not know that. Last one was Everdale, and I just didn't recognize the pieces from it. So Sean Jones says, "Congrats, Pete. It's great to see Tiny Towns is doing so well." We're going to talk about the game itself. Has it been a shock, though, to you how just out of the gate fantastic it's been doing with the sales?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Were you surprised a little bit? I mean, what were your expectations?
I mean, I believe in my game a lot, and I think it's a good game. I didn't know if it was one that was going to rise above the chaff, though, just because it doesn't have, the theme isn't extremely out there by any means. We've had quite a few forest creatures creating civilizations games recently, so yeah, it's absolutely been a surprise that it's gotten out there and is on the hotness and everything.
It doesn't have minis. It doesn't have area control. It doesn't have zombies. And yet it's number 2 on the hotness. So congratulations. Yeah. But you know what? Let's talk about our best and spiciest games that you have played recently. And one of those is a game I have not got to play, but man, I've looked at it a bunch. BJ from Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest Pete McPherson here. Tell me about Decrypto. I think you've played it.
So yes, I played my first game of Decrypto. This is one I've heard so much about. I know Shut Up and Sit Down talked about it a decent amount. Heard of it a couple other places. I love code names. Everybody loves code names, but I really love code names. And this sounded like it was right in the same alley, but it's different. So in this game, you've got the 2 teams, and you have 4 words that are visible to each side, and the players take turns, 1 player from each side, giving 3 different clues corresponding to 3 of those 4 words. But throughout the game, you have to give clues for those words over and over and over again, and the other side is taking notes on your clues.
Ooh, I like that already.
They might not figure out exactly what your words are, but they might be like, okay, he gave the clue red and sickle and Moscow, so this has something to do with Russia or something like that. And then the other team gets a chance to try to guess which words are being indicated before the other team, and they can sort of steal points from you that way. So I had a blast playing this with friends at Barden Baker, which is a local game cafe for me. And we were just laughing so hard, in part because people kept forgetting to whisper, and they would say the answers, and then the other team would just hear them and be like, okay, I think we tapped into their wires there. So it was a learning experience for sure, but a really fun and unusual twist. Definitely something I would want to own in addition to Codenames. It's certainly different enough.
Yeah, and I'm hearing a little. Have you played Word Slam before? Are you familiar with Word Slam? Yeah, I'm hearing a little bit of that where you're trying to throw off the other team, but yet still give good clues to your team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even crosstalk a little bit. Crosstalk where you're also trying not to give away the farm, but still give a decent enough clue to give your team a chance to guess it. I love those kind of things.
I haven't played that one either, but yeah, it's absolutely that same concept. And you're trying to give clues in entirely different ways. If you can point to the same word, but somehow give a clue unrelated to all your other clues, really gets you thinking.
And that is Decrypto. What's the player count that you played, and do you recommend?
We were playing with, I think there were 10 of us, 8 or 10 of us, and it was fun at that player count. Just like in Codenames, it's fun when you have more than 2 people to a team, so you can get the discussion and argument about what you want to pick there. That picture there is perfect, showing what the
it's got kind of a battleship setup where one team is on one side and the other team's on the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sit on opposite sides of the table, and it's got those fun screen things that you see in you've seen in games from going back to the 80s where you slide in the card and suddenly the word is revealed.
I had a game called Family Feud. Do you know the game show Family Feud? Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Family Feud had a board game, and we owned it as a kid. And that's what it had, those little red screens where you would just kind of put there and you could see only what you're supposed to see on there. So,
yep.
And that is Decrypto. It's out right now. People can play it. I haven't got a chance to play it yet. It's one of the ones I love that style of game. So I do need to get it. Maybe I can get my game store to pick up a demo copy and we can get that played. So Decrypto. And that is out right now. Your next game, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest Pete McPherson here, and we're talking spicy games. And this is a game I've heard of, but I know nothing about. I call it Mascarade, but I'm not sure. I've heard a bunch of different ways of pronouncing it. How do you say it?
I totally Americanize it and say Mascarade. Okay. So, yep. So this is by, my gosh, I'm spacing on the designer. Is that Bruno Faiduti?
Is one of the Brunos, designer? Right?
Yes, I believe it's Faiduti, and he's the designer of Citadels.
That's Faiduti, Bruno Faiduti.
Yes, and this was like a very simplified Citadels. I remember hearing about this one shortly after I picked up Coup, so back in 2012 or 2013 or so, and I love Coup. Coup is a great, simple social deduction game. And so I heard of this one. I was like, oh, that sounds like a similar but different twist. The idea of this one is you've got all these character cards, and we played this one with 10 of us, again, that same group. And it was
wow,
chaotic, hilarious.
Big group.
Yeah, my game group is always huge. Well, we were at the Game Cafe, sort of celebrating the Tiny Towns release, and I had a bunch of great friends come out to just to celebrate. So that was the occasion. But anyway, in this game, each player has a character card that's revealed at the beginning, and they all do different roles. Like in Coup, you've got people who can take money from other players or switch cards and stuff like that, and you're trying to acquire a certain amount of money. You reveal your cards, you hide them, and then on your turn, you can either look at who you are, you can take someone else's character card, put the cards under the table, and optionally swap them without looking at them at any point, or you can announce, I am this character, and I'm doing this thing. So as soon as someone takes your card and they put them under the table, you just already have no idea what's going on. And then someone else takes your card and puts the two cards under the table, and now you're like, well, I could be one of three different characters, and I have no idea whether they actually swapped or not. So it's much more of a party game than Coup. It feels less conniving and just nonsense. At least at 10 players, it was wonderful nonsense. And then the only way to call someone out on their lie when they say, I'm the king and I'm taking $3, which is a lot, is to say, no, I'm the king and I'm going to take $3. And so sometimes we had three different people say, I'm the king and I'm taking $3. And they all revealed their cards, and none of them was the king. And we just had no idea where the king even was at the table.
That's funny.
Lots of laughs. Great game. I just picked it up. It's over
so
here on
a
my
very
shelf
light social deduction, very light in the take that, more in terms of trying to get people at the table talking and laughing and joking around, right?
Yeah, just funny stuff happening. Again, I only played it at 10 players, but we played 2 rounds back to back because it was so good. At 5, it might be a really cutthroat, you're going through your head figuring out who could possibly be which character. But it was a silly good time at 10.
And that is Mascarade, kind of a spiritual successor to not one of my favorite games, Citadels. So I would be willing to play Masquerade. That sounds like a lot of fun. Hey, Steve's checking in. He says, don't forget, we got that contest. He'll be watching in chat. If you're watching right now, all you got to do is like the Facebook page, Board Game Gumbo, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and submit your tiny town name, any kind of name, as long as it's safe for work. And Pete is going to be picking one of those tonight. Rachel said she played Tiny Towns last week. I know where she got it from. She got it from Anubis because she texted me wanting to know where she could get a copy. And I knew Anubis had some, our local game store. And she said she really enjoys the solo variant. We got a couple of names here people are talking about. Let's see. Dave Dugas says he would call his town Table Topper Taker Town. Hardy har har, Dave. That is inside baseball, Pete. that is the Gumbo owns a table topper from our friends at Game Toppers LLC, but it's at my house, not at Dave's house. So sorry, Dave, Gotcha. It's staying at my house. You could tell that it's a little inside baseball. Kevin says, love Decrypto. And by the way, my buddy Jesse Sadule. Hey, Jesse Sadule, I've got your shirt on right now. I Heart Board Games. If you haven't watched their Twitch channel, awesome. They play live games. Hey, send them a copy of Tiny Towns. They'll play it right there live and teach people how to play it. They also did our Southern Board Game Fest. They broadcast for 12 hours with designers from all over the country interviewing them, and that's Jesse and them. Yes, he's got Decrypto and says he can play. We can play it together. Marshall Wells says he likes Masquerade for the bluffing, but it hasn't hit the table in forever. People in our group try to deduce and work out the probabilities, and it slows it down. What do you say to that, Pete? How do you keep the game moving?
There were 10 of us, and we were in a very loud game cafe, and no one had the spare brain cells to focus on anything like that. So, so I think we were just in the right environment, and people were loopy enough. We'd been there for a while that there was just no room for cold logic, or we would try to follow it for a little bit and it fell apart. I think it could be fun to do that. Again, I need to play at lower player counts and see. But I enjoyed it as a silly nonsense.
I like games that can play that many people. So that you've piqued my curiosity there.
Goes Berta up to 13.
It does play that many?
13, yep.
Wow. Berta says she's not typically a fan of group games, but she played Decrypto once and really enjoyed it enough to consider adding it eventually. So there's a lot of games in that space, but each one does something a little bit unique. So I like to try them all. I think Crosstalk's the next one I want to play. I just got it in, and I want to try that out. We got a couple of names here. What's your thoughts of, as a DC Comics fan, Luke says Smallville. We know where that's from, right?
Yeah, of course.
Interesting. Verla says Verlandia. Where did she get that name from? I'm trying to think. I think I know what it is. Kevin says Ho Chi Minh City. Are you a traveler, Pete?
Oh,
Have you ever been?
I'm not a big traveler, but um, I know of Ho Chi Minh.
Ho Chi Minh City. All right, so we're waiting for some more. While we're doing that, let's keep going on the hits. BJ from Board Game Go. I've got my guest Pete McPherson. We're talking spicy games, and the spicy game that I really can't show you. I can't show you more than this, Pete. Unfortunately, is a game called Space Shy Pluto. Are you familiar with Space?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Space.
Oh,
I
good.
love how it's yeah. I mean, it's a space slot machine. Basically, you just build this wonderful space slot machine. That was how Shut Up and Sit Down described it. That's where I get a lot of my board game recommendations, obviously.
Sure.
And it's just so fun. It's colorful. At 2 players, it plays really quick. At 5 players, it plays a bit longer, but it's still a blast. So, and I have had a chance to play the Shy Pluto expansion. Which is
I didn't know that you have played.
Oh
it.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good. I'm not spoiling anything for you then. We won't talk about it for everybody else. But
well, I can talk about it without spoiling it. Certainly.
Look, take it away. I was planning to do this. I'd rather you do it. Tell us what you think about Shy Pluto. By the way, so folks, he's a professional reviewer. He's going to do a better job than me.
So semi-professional. I review some things. Not the biggest board game reviewer. I've done a couple board game reviews on Odd Nerdbutch, and I hope to do more. But so it's at a glance, it's going to appear a bit like a legacy game because you have boxes that say "Do not open this yet," and you have the main. It might be called the Saga deck. I'm not positive, but you have a deck that you progress through as you play from one round to the next. But it's still a fully competitive game. And what it really is it's an expansion that has been spread out throughout this deck. You're not going to get all the content at once. In theory, I guess you could shuffle everything from this expansion in at once and you'd see all sorts of new things. But it's just somehow more fun this way. And it's really interesting that you have this deck that says, here, obtain this goal. Like, players can sort of buy these new cards here, and then you'll reveal the next card of the Saga deck, which introduces this new card type that gets, that's going to get slowly introduced to the game.
And so that's that little blue and white card all the way to the left. You can't see what's on it. I'm trying to protect the spoilers, but that's the little Saga deck that you're talking about.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of plot from time to time. You read out one of the Saga cards. But you've got all these cards with different mechanics, none of which I'll reveal. Some of them you're like, oh man, I can't believe this wasn't in the base game. And then others you're like, this is a totally wonky idea. I can't believe it. I've only played about 4 games of Shy Pluto so far, but I really just like the idea of this content being introduced very slowly over the course of, I'm not sure, 10 to 20 games maybe.
No, you're at the end. You're almost finished.
Oh, if I've only played, there's a lot of deck left. I know that much.
I'm not spoiling anything. It's kind of known out there. The designers have talked. They did not want the Pandemic Legacy 12 to 18 games. It's more of a smaller campaign. I was worried myself because I've never completed a campaign game, not one.
Yeah.
And this is our first one to complete it.
Yep. Gotcha.
I think it's pretty close to the end.
Okay, that's interesting to know. But yeah, it's a great game by John D. Clare. I think it's a brilliant expansion. So really a lot of fun. Yeah,
we played it, and I think we finished it in 4 games on our 4th game last night.
You have played it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, played it. Matt and I finished it last night. He was addicted to it. Matt loved playing it, and we played it like back to back to back to back. We took the break because of my mother-in-law, but came right back last night as soon as we got back from New Orleans, and we finished it up last night. All the additions. I told Matt at the end, I said, Matt, what do you think? And he's like, oh no, we got to keep all this stuff. So I'm actually I've moved everything into my regular box. And when we play Wednesday night, I've got people that are not going to go and sit through 4 to 6 or 7 games,
Yeah.
So I'm just going to break it out and play it just like it is with all the new additions. So I
absolutely.
like it. I will say this, if you like Space, you'll love Shy Pluto. If you didn't like Space, and unfortunately there are some people, it's just not the game for them. I don't think it's going to fix anything for them. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree with that. Yep. Yeah. It's one of those expansions where it's the same but more. There's just more stuff, and it's presented in this unusual but fun format.
And that is Space Shy Pluto. I know there's some words before that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. The something of Shy Pluto. I can't remember. But anyway, that's Shy Pluto. the expansion for Space Base out from AEG. And the last one I wanted to talk about, BJ from Board Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Pete McPherson, designer of AEG's new game, Tiny Towns. But we're talking about spicy games we played recently. I haven't played it in a couple months, but I did want to talk about a game, and it's called Big Easy Busking for obvious reasons. My friend Carla Kopp, frequent guest of the show. Pete, she's been on every season. We love having Carla on here. She's just so talkative. She's so excited about games, and her little company puts out great games. We're Giraffe Games. This is a game that I want everybody to at least take a look at. Some people aren't going to like area control games. It's not my favorite genre. Pete, you and I were talking about that before, but I love the vibrant colors. I love the quick gameplay. It's easy to teach, and it's very thematic. It feels like you're doing a New Orleans jazz band, trying to get people and the crowd excited, especially if you play with the right people who get into thematic games. So it's an abstract game from Josh Mills, but it does have a nice little theme to it. You said before the show that you haven't played it, but you've heard about it.
Yeah, well, I actually watched probably the last quarter or third of a game between Carla and Chris Zinsley of Cardboard Edison. So, yeah, and as we were talking about before, area control isn't quite my type of game, but this is something, because of the theme and just how vibrant it looks on the table, I absolutely need to try at some point.
And the reason I'm bringing it out, it's out on Kickstarter, came out today. They had tried to bring it out a couple of months ago. It just didn't have a great takeoff. There was a couple of issues that Carla wanted to just retool a little bit. I think she's got the campaign tuned up right. It's like 60% funded in the first 12 hours. So it's doing great. People out there. And if you're like me from Louisiana and you want to support Louisiana themed type games, Big Easy Busking, that's a pretty easy sell for us, because every time we go to Jackson Square in New Orleans, there's buskers all over the place. There's magicians, there's street performers, there's artists, and everybody has seen the hat or the open guitar case and tossed a couple of coins in there. So this is a pretty familiar theme. And the idea that bands are trying to get hyped up and get the crowd excited. I mean, that's Frenchman Street. That's Bourbon Street. I mean, that's life in New Orleans all the time. High energy Friday nights and a big easy attitude on Sundays. So until the Saints start. But that's Big Easy Busking. So just trying to get the word out for people out there and help out Carlo. Pete, we got some more names coming in here, man. People are excited about this. Let's see what we have. Ooh. You saw anything that you liked?
Let's see.
Melissa. Hey, Melissa. Melissa checking in. She says, Melville will be my own tiny town.
Melville,
is that
nice.
For the town, or is that because it's short for Melissa? I don't know. I'll have to ask her that. Let's see. Sean Jones, my buddy, Mr. Sean. Are you a music fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean Jones. Check out the Rush Tribute Project. Sean is phenomenal. They sound like Rush. It's amazing. You got to check them out. Sean says, I think I'd have to go with Microscopolis. Okay, I like that. That's not bad. Miguel says Fatville. Miguel, you and I haven't met, so I'm not sure why he picked Fatville. Is he a friend of yours? No. Miguel has checked into the show before, but he says Fatville. Okay. Marshall Wells going with the good board game theme. Meepleton.
Meepleton, nice.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like its own game.
Yeah, that could be a game. Meepleton. Yeah. Are the wheels turning there, Pete?
A little bit.
Get some ideas. Jesse said in Charterstone, our town was Heartland. So I'll go with that. But I was thinking of Lake Titicaca. I like your second choice, Jesse. I like Lake Titicaca. Yeah. We were Captainville in Charterstone, which we still haven't finished yet. So, Gordo is Spanish for fat. Oh, Pete. I didn't catch that.
Oh, me either. Took French.
Very nice. Very nice. Tu parles français? Well, a little bit?
Un peu.
Un petit peu? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back. So, BJ from Board Game Go, I've got my guest here, Pete McPherson, the designer of Tiny Towns. We've been talking about all these other spicy games, but the game we really need to talk about is your game, Tiny Towns. People have questions. They've been playing it. I've been playing it a bunch and actually got a chance to review it. I think you saw the review that I posted for it. So I like it. My wife told me to tell you this. Okay, she has never seen the show. She doesn't care one whit about Gumbo Live. And when I was walking up the stairs, she said, hey, who do you have on the show? And I said, Pete McPherson, the designer of Tiny Towns. Ooh, tell Pete I love his game.
Awesome.
Now, that's pretty high praise because she doesn't like a lot of games. So, wow.
That's great. Cool.
So tell us, is this your first game that's ever been published?
Yeah, this is my first published game design. AEG has treated me really well, and just so happy with how everything came out. It really looks like the most deluxeified version of Tiny Towns I could have imagined. So my early prototype way back when, I had wooden building meeples, but they looked a bit more like Catan meeples, just sort of basic in shape. And I was just hoping I could find a publisher that would put building meeples in the game, period. And I just love the way all the pieces look, especially when they're mixed together. You've got them nicely organized. I'm a bit more chaotic. I like a big, colorful pile. Looks like a bunch of Fruit Loops. So, yeah.
That is not. I'm gonna have to get back to the picture, but keep going.
Anyway, I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. But anyway, AG has done an awesome production of it.
There we go.
Yep. Yeah. So we got those chunky wooden pieces there, and really happy to have my first design published with AEG and to have it get the reception that it's gotten so far.
Pete, so one of the things that people say when I brought it out, and I brought it to 2 game nights so far, and the first thing they notice is exactly what you said. Wow, look at the meeples. I mean, every one of the different buildings has a unique color and shape to the meeple, and the monuments are 3D from the standpoint that they rise above all the other meeples and really stand out. So is it, you talked about how you were hoping for a publisher. Did the production come out how you saw it in your dreams?
I honestly never imagined the meeples would be this detailed the way they are. I thought they were going to be a bit more basic. Like, we've got the little doorways in there. That was a really nice touch by, that was from Josh Wood, the developer, who actually designed the meeple shape. So he's responsible for all those cool looking pieces. Yep, the doorways, that was his idea, and he chose the color palette and everything. I'm colorblind, so I let him do that and just made sure I could tell the colors apart. So yeah, I mean,
because that's something a lot of the viewers, in fact, we talk about it almost every week, it seems like, because some of the chat crew do have trouble with it. Did the colors come out pretty well for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see the brown and the red right there. That red barn thing is actually the same shade of red as the cubes. That's super distinct for me. I hope it's super distinct for other colorblind people as well, because there are different varieties of colorblindness. But there was one point actually when we got the cards back, and I could not tell the red and brown apart, not in certain lightings. And so I was like, Josh, we got to fix this, because this is going to be tough for people. And then we did. So, and people pointed out it's sort of a funky.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead there, BJ.
I was going to say, Melissa from Melissa Sings says, hey, she loves the look, the colors, and the size of the meeples. And the card art is lovely too. Touch on that. I don't know if you heard, Blue Peg, Pink Peg did a long, deep dive into it. And one of the things that surprised Rob on play 5, he hadn't noticed the card art with all the cute furry little animals in it. Where did that inspiration for the fact that it's not just a tiny town, which is what I expected when I heard about the game? I'll tell you, I'll give you a little secret. It had been on my radar a long time. It was one of the games that we talked about on Punchboard Media, and a game that looked just like something my wife and I would like to play. I just kind of had a gut feeling it would be something she wanted. But I didn't know about that aspect of the game. Where did that part come from? The idea that it's not just tiny towns, but it's tiny little animal towns.
So I'll go way back to the beginning. I think in my notes when I first started, I've got a little game idea notebook. When I first started writing down ideas for this game, I said players are going to be building something in a 4x4 grid. Could be towns, could be anything. It's an abstract game. If you play it, it is pretty abstract. You've got the theme of forest creatures, but as they talked about on Blue Peg, Pink Peg, the theme doesn't come through a ton because you don't have little animals on your board or anything like that, and it can be sort of hard to notice them. So we were thinking about early on when I was developing with AEG, what themes this game could have. We wanted it to be a town building game. There could have been tiny people living in it. And then we were thinking about, okay, if it's tiny people, what is it going to be? Medieval Europe? We've got plenty of those already. Could it be like tiny cells and little organelles and small organisms like that? What else could it be that's tiny? There was one point when mushroom people was an idea that was floated. I'm not a big fan of mushrooms. In fact, I sort of have like a fungus phobia. I did not like the mushroom people idea. And then
I don't like the mushroom idea.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure whether it was Josh Wood's idea or mine, but we started talking about tiny forest creatures. I was a big fan of the Dimwood Forest series by Avi. It's I guess sort of akin to Redwall by Brian Jacques, another book series I read. Yeah. So I grew up reading books about animals that have this sort of civilized world. And so that was a theme we went with. That was what was tiny about it. And yeah, the animals aren't on all the cards, so it's definitely possible. I've seen a few people pick up a card and go, wait a second, like this is an animal game. And I'm like, yeah. So it's tiny forest creatures.
And they aren't on every card. In fact, I think on this one, that's one of the monuments that doesn't have a card art. And then all of a sudden you'll pick up a card and there's like a little rabbit on there. It's cute. Yeah. It's good looking art. But one of the first things that people always say when we throw them on there, they look at all these chunky wooden bits and all the colorful art in the cards, and then they start seeing the abstract nature of the puzzle, because we call it what it is. It's a puzzle game, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden things start clicking for them. I still tell people that the first game they play, it's all about just figuring out how the board is going to work, the 16 spaces, and because you have that cool little twist. You put stuff on the board. This is one of the things, chat crew out there. I'm not spoiling anything. When you put the stuff on the board, it seems like every other little abstract Sagrada type game. And then you remove stuff and add one meeple on there. And that's where everyone that I've taught the game, do you have that same experience? Everyone that I've taught the game goes, oh, now I see the game. And that's the unusual twist. Where did that twist come from?
Well, so as far as the resources glomming down to one space, it kind of came from two places. So one was Minecraft and the recipes for creating all the different items in Minecraft. Crafting? If you want to make a pickaxe, you have a 3x3 grid and you have to put a stick, and then whatever the material for your pickaxe is. And the first time I played Minecraft, I was like, oh my gosh, you could make so many different tools in this game. What a cool concept. I'd love to see it in a board game. And then another place it came from was 2048. The first time I played 2048, are you familiar with the app 2048?
I don't know that.
Well, it's also on a 4x4 grid. It was really popular back in 2013, 2014. And you have numbers on this grid, and you swipe the grid and make all the number blocks fall in one direction or the other. And if they're the same numbers, they glom into each other and double. So if you have two 2s and they hit each other, they'll become two 4s. And you're trying to hit number 2048. So the first time I played that and swiped the screen and saw the number of blocks glom into each other, something clicked in my brain. And I was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this puzzle. This is satisfying. And just like in Tiny Towns, your board really fills up quickly with junk and you can't get stuff in the right space. So somewhere between Minecraft and 2048 is where the different build patterns glomming down into one space came from.
That is pretty cool. Steve has lost control of the chat crew, by the way. Apparently there's mushroom puns because you mentioned the mushroom people. So Steve, get control of those people. Enough with the mushroom puns. But Steve threw out one. He says itty bitty city. Interesting.
Itty bitty city. Nice. Yeah.
Interesting. And Jeremy, the Game Geek Ninja, who, by the way, is a librarian over there in Alabama, he says, yes, kids' books mentioned on the Gumbo. Listen, Jeremy, he could talk books with you all. We may do another show called Book Gumbo Live, and you could do a whole hour on that, I'm sure, Pete.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Jeremy, the Game Geek Ninja says, Lilliputian, your luck. Is that your city choice? That's an interesting one. So we're getting a lot of names for you here, Peter. We'll see which one you like better. So inspiration itself for the game. So you talked about how the mechanics kind of came and how the theme kind of came, but the game itself, did you draw on any inspiration from any games you've played before or any designers that you particularly admire?
In board games, not so much. Like I said, I think Minecraft and 2048 were the main influences there. There was also a word game that I play with my dad where you've got a 5x5 grid, each of you, and you take turns saying a letter that both people have to put in the grid, and you try to make as many words as you can. So that's sort of where that element of all players are dealing with the same situation, and you take turns choosing the resources comes from. For those who don't know, you take turns being the master builder, and you've got this wooden hammer meeple. And when you have that hammer, you name one of the 5 resources, and everyone, including yourself, has to place it on your board, whether you want it or not. A lot of the times you don't, and you're just waiting for your turn when you have control of the hammer and you can say the thing that finally clears up the space on your board.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, one board game that, I would say Patchwork is probably an influence for this. I mean, you can see the board looks... Yep. Yeah, the board looks very much like an Agricola board. I love Agricola also, big Uwe Rosenberg fan. So it's got some of the Tetris puzzliness of Patrick, except that the Tetris shapes are constantly collapsing on themselves. So that was a big game influence. I had the game
And the
pretty
fact
much.
that you decide which of the next three pieces are going to get picked, leaving the other pieces for your friend, that kind of makes the same agonizing, juicy decisions that you have to make whenever you're picking your resources in tiny towns.
Right, the same sort of indirect player interaction, but you're still very much affecting each other's boards.
I like
Tiny
Emily's
epic town,
tiny
nice.
epic town. Oh,
Yep.
there's another company that says, dang it, we missed out on one. So tiny epic towns. Yeah. And speaking of the size of the box, that could have almost fit that particular company's line, Tiny Epic Towns, but maybe not
Yeah.
not the kind of game they have. But yeah, what you were talking about, all the different design elements of Patchwork, I can kind of, it's not the same game as Patchwork. It doesn't have really anything to do with it, but I can see where it's got some of those really tough decisions that you're trying to make. And that brings me to a point. If there's a divisive part of this game, Pete, you've read the commentary both ways. Is it a solitary game or does it have player interaction? You're the designer. Where do you fall on that?
So I would like to think that it's sort of both. It's kind of both because everyone has their own board, and at the end of the day, you've got your own little thing that you created. Whether you messed it up and didn't do what you wanted, or you did, you've got your own little town. But I think it really depends on the group. It can be a very much heads down sort of game. You're all looking at your own thing, and it comes to your turn, and you just say that resource you need most. But I think it can also be very interactive with the right group. So it's been pretty interesting to read the BGG comments and reviews, and some people say it's another multiplayer solitaire game, and then other people say this game has too much take that for my tastes, which is really interesting to me that both of those views can be out there. But I think with different groups, those can both be valid views. And if you're playing with the town hall variant where you're flipping cards from the deck to choose resources rather than players choosing them, then it truly is a non-interactive game, except for a couple buildings that score based on what neighbors have. It can be very multiplayer solitaire if you play with the town hall mode, for sure. But I think in Master Builder, it can be interactive. And I like to think that that's where the strategy shines, not in getting the most points, but in going for that awkward building that no one else wants, so you can name tons of yellow and flood everyone else's boards. So it's up to the group, I think.
The more you play, and especially the more you play with the same group, I'm assuming you would agree with me, the more people get to people watch and board watch and start to predict, oh, I've seen this pattern. I know where he's going. I'm not going to give that one. Oh, she wants yellow. She doesn't want red, and I need red. I can score points on my board. I'm going to call red every round. But I do notice that the larger play counts, the less control you have over your board, and it's harder to score big points. But it's also harder to mess with other people. The smaller boards, I've scored. I don't know if this is a good score to you or not, but I've scored in the 40s on a smaller board with just two players. But that's because every other round I'm controlling what's going on my board, and I can really try to maximize that. Now, when you're playing with two players, the other player is directly deciding what you're going to play every other round, so they can really control what's putting on your board. I just find that the game gets progressively harder the more players are out there.
Yeah, I would say so. It's different. I mean, in a 6-player game, it's really about survival. You're just trying to deal with all those nonsense resources flowing into your town. And one funny thing I saw emerge in a late playtest I'd never seen before, players started negotiating unprompted. Someone said,
that.
They said, hold on, you're about to name a resource. I'm about to be out. If you say blue, I will name whatever you want for my next few turns as Master Builder. And the person said, deal. Sounds like a deal. And I was just sort of like, what's going on? I've never seen this before. Absolutely allowed by my interpretation. Go for it if a group wants to do that. So maybe that's what you have to do sometimes in those bigger player games. And occasionally I will say, I'll say you need yellow. I'll say yellow if you say this thing on your turn. So
interesting. We do play with, and I'm assuming, I can't remember if this is a variant or if this is the real rule. We always play where we hand out 2 monument cards and you get to pick the one you want. That's official, or is that variant?
Oh, no, that's official. I think of that as sort of the main experience, but the first time you're teaching, as you know, you can play without the monuments and it won't affect anything except
you got to play
the
with
boards
the
will be a little bit more similar.
No, you got to play.
I think so too. Yeah.
The monument. In fact, my wife and I played enough games to where we have, think we've either played or seen all the monuments. So we haven't played with every single monument, but we have played. We've seen both of the cards and had to pick them and played with just about all the monuments. So I find the monuments important. What amazes me about the monuments is the fact that in some games, it feels like building the monument is so critical. You have to focus on it right away, leave space for it, and play it. And then you get the monument, I can't remember the name of it. You get the monument that says you don't score any points until all your buildings are on the board, and you get that many points for how many buildings you already have on the board. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I can't finish this building out. I need to leave room for it, though. And if you don't leave room for it, oh, man, that's 5, 6, or 7 points, which could be the difference. Oh, it's an evil game, Pete. It's an evil game.
Thank you, I think.
If there was one criticism, and I got to be fair, I don't have any criticism about the game, but Bradley mentioned that early on in the game, if you don't know what's going on with that monument and you don't leave yourself room and you mess up your 16 spaces, man, the back half of the game is pretty bad. What I said that night is, great, let's set it up and play again, because the whole game takes 25 minutes or 30 minutes. You know what I mean? It's not a game where if you mess up Agricola in the first couple of rounds, it could be a long night for you and you might be pretty bored. But in Tiny Towns, you just set it up again and you play again, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm assuming that's
and
what
a
you're
lot of
going
mistakes. For. Yeah, it's pretty quick playing. It says 45 minutes on the box, but really, if you're playing a 3-player game and everyone's experienced, you'll be done in half an hour or less, I would say. And, some of those mistakes, sometimes you can recover and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you put a blue in a place where it literally is impossible to construct anything and it's just going to be a dead spot. And I still make those mistakes all the time. And so does Josh Wood, the developer. We play test over Skype a lot. And so often we'll say to the other person, oh man, you are not going to believe the error I just made. This is going to be a rough round. So it still happens.
We did find a couple of times I've played without the caverns rule. I think that's the name of it. The cavern rule.
The cavern rule. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And I have found that it may be fun. It may not be fun with or without the cavern rule. My point is that in every game, somebody's going to make that one mistake where you grab the resource and you put it down. You go, oh man, I can't put that there. Take it off, put it in the cavern, and keep playing the game. You only have 2 slots for the cavern. And by the cavern rule, we're talking about people is when somebody calls out a resource that you just can't use. If you play the regular game and you put it down and you put it in the wrong spot and everybody else has already played, you're stuck because you can't get rid of the resource. With the cavern rule, you've got 2 slots off the board that if you don't want to play a resource, you can just dump it off there and keep playing and not mess up your board. So I like that rule. It's a little bit more forgiving, and I think it keeps people in the game because somebody can really mess you up and just give you a resource that putting it down on the board, you just can't do anything after that. And that's just no fun. So the ability to dump it off one and hope that the next person gives you a resource you can do, I think is a great rule. And I'm glad you included it as a variant in the rules.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome.
But did that come from personal experience or was that always in the game? Or was it more of, oh man, people are getting destroyed?
That one was an idea that came from AEG to include as a variant to lessen the punishing aspect of the game for first-time players. And also, you can play, if you have a group of mixed skill level, you can give new players the cavern variant and then not play with the cavern yourself. So that was their idea with that. I think it was a great call.
If you had to give one tip for new players, what would you say? What's the one tip for somebody that's playing Tiny Towns for the first time?
I would say the most important thing, and this is pretty much an always rule, always keep your squares that don't have buildings in them in one group. Because as soon as you split that into 2 groups, you're guaranteed going to have 2 empty spaces at the end of the game unless you have some special building to finagle out of it. As you know, the shed building can be placed in any empty square. But generally, as soon as you split your board into 2 empty spaces, you're going to be really restricted in what you can build. And you will have 2 empty squares at the end of the game for 2 negative points. So
that is a good tip. And that's Pete McPherson. We're talking Tiny Towns, and it's out from AEG right now. In fact, it's all over the place, and it's number 2 on. In fact, let me put that up. It's number 2 on the hotness on BGG right now. Congratulations, man!
Thanks.
This is a board game show, Pete. So we got to play a board game.
Oh yeah,
and you've seen this before. we like to play a game called the Envie Game, especially with people that are new to the show. In the Envie game, envie is just a Cajun word for hankering or jonesing, something you really want. And in this particular case, the way we play the game is you privately come up with a game that if you could play with your dream play count, doesn't have to be a game that's out now, could be a game in the past, could be a game that's coming out. It's your choice. You name the game, and then you don't name the game. You have it in your mind. We'll ask a bunch of questions. Yeah, I'm sorry I messed that up. I'm a little rusty here. We have 20 questions now. I've got 20 questions, but the chat crew can ask you as many questions they want. So we're going to see if we can come up with your game. And just a reminder, we are giving away a copy of Tiny Towns from AEG tonight. All you got to do is like the Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and list what you would call your tiny town tonight. We've had a bunch. We got a bunch of names out there, but still a chance for those of you in the chat crew who haven't put your names up. David Miller, if you got a name, put it up there. So let's see your name of your tiny town. All right. So you understand the Envie game?
I think so.
Envie Game, presented by our friends at Game Toppers LLC. Upgrade your gaming experience with Game Toppers LLC. First question. Is it competitive or a cooperative game? I'm going to guess it's competitive, though. You're
right.
All right, competitive game. Just based on what I know about you. I did a little show homework. So, American designer or a European designer? And I'm going to guess it's a European designer.
Ooh, I'm going to do some quick research.
That's right, Steve. Our game has a sponsor. Our games each week are brought to you by Game Toppers LLC. Ding! Thanks for the plug, Steve. Upgrade your gaming experience with Game Toppers LLC. What you got?
So it was designed by a European designer.
How did I know that, man? All right. So chat crew, we've got some hints here. It's a competitive game, and it's by a Euro designer. Next question for me is it board game based or card game based?
Card game.
Or mixed. Card? So it's predominantly a card game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So card based. Let's see. European designer. Card based. Is it an engine builder?
I'm gonna say yes. I never thought of this before, but it is, yes.
Steve wants to know if it plays in 60 minutes or less. I'm going to say probably not.
It does play in 60 minutes or less. I like short games. I like really short games. Yeah.
Oh, then it's not the game I'm thinking of. Okay, well, I thought I was on track with it just based on what you said. But all right, so it's under 60 minutes. It's card based.
It's not Mascarade.
Jesse said, "You're describing Mascarade." No, it's not Mascarade, unfortunately. So let's see. Boy, that kind of threw me off there. I thought I was on. Oh, is it only a 2-player game?
No,
2-player only. Like a Lost Cities or something.
No, it's not.
Plays more than 2 players.
Yes.
Plays 2 or more, right?
3 or more.
Ooh, 3 or more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is an upper limit, but you haven't asked what that limit is yet. So
yeah, I'll let the chat crew do that. Jesse wants to know if it plays
6 or more. Yes, it does.
Mike Henson. Oh, hey, there's Mike checking in. Sorry, I missed you earlier, Mike. Mike, designer of Into the Trail, says, does it have expansions?
This game does not need expansions. It's perfection, in my opinion.
It's perfection by itself.
Yep.
Does it have a historical theme?
No.
Not a historical theme. Oh man, this is not the game I was thinking of at all. Had you pegged for a different game? Marshall wants to know, does it have negotiations in it?
No, there can be table talk, but not, I wouldn't say a negotiation. No.
Kevin's guessing Decrypto, but based on that answer, I'm going to say it's not Decrypto, right?
It's not Decrypto.
So, okay. Is it, did it come out in the last 3 years?
No.
A relatively new game? No? Okay.
Nope.
Not in the last 3 years. Is it still in print?
I believe so. As of recently, perhaps back in print. So that should tell you that it's an older game by board game industry standards.
Yeah. Not beyond 10 years, though.
Beyond 10 years.
It is beyond 10 years.
Yep. Before this great golden age that we're in.
Oh, man. Does Cosmic Encounter is designed by an American. Okay, so it's not. It's Peter Ola. Oh, I can never say his name. Oh, let's see. Not a legacy game. No. Oh. Is it is the designer German?
I believe so, yes.
Yep. German designer. All right, guys, we got some good hints here. Just to recap, let's recap. It's a competitive game. It's a Euro. It's card-based. It did not come out in the last 3 years. In fact, it's over 10 years. It plays 3 or more. They want to know, Jesse wants to know if it's got dice.
No dice.
No dice. Kevin says, does it have a sci-fi theme?
No sci-fi theme.
So it's
nope.
Not. Mike Hinson wants to know, did Fantasy Flight do a big box reprint?
No, that would be interesting. I have no idea what would be in that big box.
That would be a TI4, but that would be a lot longer than 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Does it have a farming theme?
No farming theme.
So it's not Agricola, it's not Caverna. Neither one of those are our games.
Yeah, this is definitely a card game. I don't think anyone would disagree that this is a card game, first and foremost.
A card game. It doesn't have bean farming in it, so it's not Bonanza.
No bean farming.
Not Bonanza. Is it a Uwe Rosenberg game?
It's not an Uwe game, no.
You said you loved Une. Oh, good one, Steve. Has it won?
Did it win?
Like Spiel des Jahres or something?
It didn't win the Spiel. I'm not sure if it's won other awards. It was Spiel des Jahres recommended.
10 years ago, it was Spiel des Jahres recommended.
Yes.
Oh man. Whoa, man! I think he's stumping me here. This is really good. Is it is it thematic or just an abstract game?
I was about to point you in that direction. There's no theme. There's no theme.
No theme at all, huh?
No theme at all.
No theme at all. Yeah, you had to look it up, and you would have known that Dr. Rainer Knizia is German. You knew that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You knew Knizia was German, but yet you had to look it up. So you were worried whether he was German or Austrian or something else. That's a hint there. All right, people. Let's go what we got. We got competitive. It's a Euro. It's definitely card-based. It is definitely an abstract. It is not out in the last 3 years. In fact, it's over 10 years old. It plays 3 or more. It does not have a historical theme. It's still in print, and it's a German designer. All right, people, what we got here? That's going to be less than 10 years, Marshall Hanabi,
yeah,
and that's a French designer.
And it's a cooperative.
It's a that's a cooperative. That's right. That's a good point.
Yep.
It is a competitive game. Yeah. Oh man, I am. P, this is a good one. I feel like here's a question. Oh, no thanks. Oh, great one.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Nice job, Sean. How did
That's it.
No thanks. Oh man, simple, no theme, plays in 30 minutes. One of the games I've probably played the most out of any game is No Thanks. I don't say the truth. I don't even know how many plays I have of it. 30, 40, 50 plays. I don't even know. How many times do you think you played it?
I only picked it up about a year ago. I only played it for the first time about a year ago, and just blown away by the simplicity of it. So good. I love that your turn is binary. Your turn is, do you take it?
Yes.
Or do you not take it? But that decision can just be agonizing.
Brutal.
Am I bold enough to send this card around the table again because I know no one wants it? Is anyone out of chips right now? So
I've had a lot of people say, "Oh man, this game is all about luck. It's about the way the cards come out." And I look at them and say, "Really? Okay, let's play 10 games." And
yeah,
I can predict which person's going to win 6 of those 10 games, 7 of those 10 games. In fact, I played one night. This game is a frequent scout game night. I used to be a scoutmaster of a troop, and once a year we have a big camp in where we play games all night, literally 12 hours. That game, no thanks. One guy wins it about 90% of the time he plays. He's that good.
Yeah, some people can do that. I mean, I think of course there is some luck. Of course there's that situation. Sure. You've got the 33 and you've got the 35 and the 34 shows up and that makes the round for you. But I think it's
or you're trying
luck.
To shoot the moon and you don't get it, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have like 27, 28, 29, 31, 32, 33, and you're pulling for the 30 and it's in the box and it never comes out.
Yeah. So there's definitely some luck, but I think it's more skill. Now, do you agree with me that it's technically an engine builder? Like there's technically some engine builder DNA in there, just in the getting different groups of numbers and.
Yeah, I'm going to call shenanigans on that. You threw me off because I was thinking you were going Imperial Settlers with it because you're talking Europe and you're talking cards, and that's kind of the definitive, that 51st State Imperial Settlers. That's what people go to when they think of European card games, or if it's a longer game. But I didn't see it, I guess. So what's your argument that it's engine building?
So, of course, I wouldn't say it's an engine builder first and foremost, but you do have that sense of throughout a round. If you manage to grab 3 numbers, you've got like a 10, you've got a 21, and you've got like a 29, you sort of have these opportunities. You've got 6 different cards out there that won't gain you any points and that you can take without penalty. So it's not a flat arc each round. There's a sense of progress as you start to collect cards and you can develop more opportunities to take cards and take chips, therefore. So there is a feedback loop in the game, which I think is what defines an engine builder.
I see where you're going with that, because one of the things that I thought about when we first started playing was that you don't want to take cards at all, and that's how you win the game. And then you realize it's luck. It's almost impossible to do that. The real key is having chips, is having 15, 16, 18, 20 chips and reducing that 12, 13, 14, 15, which only counts against you as 12, to nothing, right?
Well, that's one way to play. Or you can play like I do and ride the lightning and have 1 or 2 chips and just play it cool and hope that one card shows up with a lot of chips on it. So that's how I prefer to play.
Here's where I mess up. And it's gotten to be a comedy when I play it with the Rozov family. We all sit around the table and we're going around, and you know how the first part is when that bad card comes out and everybody's going, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. And then at some point, somebody says, man, that's a lot of chips. I'll take that card. I'm always the person who doesn't and who just keeps putting it out. And then I've got no money in my hand and I get stuck with random cards, a 7, a 15, a 22, and a 33. No way to connect them. And I'm out the game in the 4th round,
Yep.
I do that every time. I always press it's not really pressing your luck, but it's bluffing. I bluff one too many times where I should have taken the card and all of those coins.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Knowing when to take that big pile of 12, 13, 14, 15, or 16 coins before somebody else does. That's the skill I haven't mastered. And yes, Dave Dugas, PJ is bad at board games. Yes. That's not a surprise to everybody at Gumbo game night. So, hey, that was fun. The Envie game, no thanks. One of my favorite games. And you totally stumped me. I wasn't thinking of that, but I should have gone that way.
Engine builder may have thrown you off, but I couldn't say just no, it's not an engine builder, but definitely not what you would think of first.
I'll take that as an excuse. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, then I just, for some reason, I had that. And when you said it wasn't historical, you saw my eyes. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to have to, the problem is I was already down that path, and trying to backtrack and empty out all these thoughts just got me off. Hey, so where are you going for cons this year?
So the only con I'm definitely going to, unfortunately, is PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. That's
don't say in late November. I hear it's great.
It is great. I wish I were going to more because I love cons. I am maybe going to Gen Con. We'll see. But definitely PAX Unplugged.
All right. And hey, let's not forget, we got to pick a contest winner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I was just checking the list there.
So Steve
I
put it
guess is
together
there?
with some numbers if you want, or you can do it
Yep.
as just picking it yourself. It's up to you. You can do that random number generator. I tell you,
I'm gonna.
I like Emily's suggestion of Tiny Epic Town. No, Dave, you're not going to win with yours, but I do like Tiny Epic Town. That was a pretty cool one.
All right, so I see 14 in there. Is there anyone else who wants to? Is that everybody? We're sure that's everyone who wanted to enter there.
That is everybody who had one. And Verla's
Okay.
asking if anybody's going to BGG Spring. Verla, the chat crew, the Gumbo guys will be there. So yeah, if you're going to be there, make sure you hook up with the Gumbo guys. We'll have 2 or 3 of the Gumbo crew, Bradley and Carlos, and maybe Dave. Maybe Dave will be there also. So make sure you can find them. And Steve confirmed 14 of them are on there. So you tell us which one you're picking, and we're going to find out the big winner tonight.
Okay, so I am going to pick this randomly, and it is Microscopolis by Sean Jones.
Sean Jones, Mr. Sean. Oh, Mr. Sean, I'll see him for Gen Con. We do volunteering for Envoy, a lot of Gen Con. Although this year I'll be working for a Gray Fox game. So, but you never know. I will definitely. That's my breakfast buddy. I see him every morning for a breakfast. Jeff, you just missed it. Sorry, man, you just missed it. Too late. But the winner is Mr. Sean Jones with Microscopolis. Congratulations, Sean, and I'll get you that game. Hey, how can people find out where you are? How do they get in touch with you on social media?
So they can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Both of those are at Peter L. McPherson. McPherson is McPherson. I don't think it matters capital or lowercase on Twitter and Instagram, does it?
Yeah, you're not the famous actor Peter McPherson. I keep running every time I try to find you. Apparently there's an actor named Peter McPherson.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look him up. But yes,
Twitter and Instagram.
Twitter and Instagram, Peter L. McPherson. It's mostly game stuff. Occasionally some fantasy book stuff will slip in from time to time. So, and I'm just realizing now, Microscopolis, so I think that's a reference to what I was saying before about one of the possible themes we floated was small organelles and single-celled organisms. So I think that may have been what Sean was hinting at there.
Bet that is what Mr. Sean, very clever, Mr. Sean, Microscopolis.
Yeah. Oh. That would have been a darn good name too for it. It's probably what we would have ended up calling it. So
Microscopolis. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo. It helps us get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows, including next week's show, designer and graphic artist extraordinaire, the designer of Asking for Troubles, Christian Strain's going to be coming in. He's got some projects in the pipeline that he wants to talk to us about. Can't wait to see him. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. And until next time, Pete, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Thanks, everyone.